Shalom, Israel. This is Shemaiah 1, back with another Lions Roar 12 Tribes video. This time we're going to take you away from the usual topics to something that troubles the world. It's something that has always troubled the world. What is that? H2O. Water. Something that's been here from the beginning. There's been a lot of talk concerning global warming, but let me tell you something. What the Most High has ordained, it cannot be stopped. So I'm going to show you a series of videos, but before we go into those videos, I like to begin with Genesis chapter 1 and 1, because it pertains to the video that we'll be watching. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. This is the first book of Moses, called Genesis. In the beginning, the Most High created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of the Most High moved upon the face of the waters. And the Most High said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And the Most High saw the light, that it was good. And the Most High divided the light from the darkness. And the Most High called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. And the Most High said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And the Most High made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And the Most High called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So what we have is the creation of the earth, and the Most High separating the waters from the waters, which has a lot to do with today. We cannot live without water. And so we're going to go into this video. I'm going to show you a series of videos showing you how the earth is on a railroad pathway down a slippery slope, which they call today global warming. Okay? So just stay tuned, pay attention, and listen up. We're going to go through this.
Earth, the only planet in our solar system covered in water. Water was born 4.5 billion years ago, among the cloud of gas and dust that collapsed to form our solar system. Icy particles collided and stuck together, creating pebbles, then boulders, and eventually planets the size of Earth. Volcanic eruptions released this water into the air, and with help from icy comets and asteroids, created a freshwater ocean that turned the planet blue. Falling rain washed salt into the ocean, leaving freshwater mostly trapped in ice caps and glaciers. And as those glaciers receded, humans flooded into river valleys, built civilizations near water, and began to change it on a global scale. We've polluted it with toxins from industry and runoff from agriculture. We've taken more than our fair share by draining aquifers and entire seas. And we've disrupted the rains by dumping CO2 into the atmosphere. We can only live a few days without water, and only by changing our relationship to it can we hope to avoid the coming crisis. Disappearing groundwater isn't just a problem in the United States. This NASA satellite map shows just how bad things have gotten. The red you see on the map shows the places where groundwater is being steadily depleted. As early as 2025, Experts say that half the world's population will be living in places where there isn't enough water. And it's estimated that by 2040, most of the world won't have enough water to keep up with demand all year long. And when wells run dry, existing tensions flare up. In Basra, Iraq, severe water shortages helped spark anti-government protests.
So here we see why there will be famines, wars, and pestilence. Water is one of the main factors to this drastic problem, and leaders along with rich families control how the water is distributed. 80% of the water of the world today is dammed up in different regions, which causes people of smaller countries, cities, and towns to move elsewhere, causing bigger problems.
Water is thought of as being a commodity, something to be bought and sold. Water can also be property. So water is also understood to be private property. So you have unequal access. And as a result, people suffer. So having access to fresh water is really important in order to just live.
In Flint, Michigan, the government treated water like just another cost to be cut. It switched the city's supply to the Flint River, but failed to prevent lead from leaching into the water. And parents here worry about their kids' future.
Water is from my tap. This right here shows it. They're saying this is safe for us. This is what happens when prophet takes precedence over people, and we're just here to stand as one to say that we won't stand for this.
What do we want? Clean water! What do we want it now? If we don't get it, shut it down!
At the core of our global water crisis is how we manage and allocate water. Experts say that if our depletion, pollution, and misuse of fresh water continues unchecked, it could affect not only our entire food system, but also push ecosystems and societies to a point of no return.
It's a crisis on the Colorado. The nation's largest reservoirs are rapidly retreating. Iconic dams could stop producing power. Western states are being warned to drastically cut their water use.
This is a crisis that we haven't seen in history.
Today, the Interior Department declared a first-ever Tier 2 shortage on the river that provides water for 40 million people in 7 states. Arizona will lose 21% of its water, Nevada 8%. And the government is now threatening unprecedented cuts on all the states unless they start using less water.
It is in our authorities to act unilaterally to protect the system.
Climate change is making the West hotter and drier. The worst drought in 1,200 years and chronic overuse have drained Lake Mead and Lake Powell to about a quarter of capacity.
We're going to buoy number 3.
Bido Malide is due to give birth in just a few weeks' time. But every day, she still walks up to 10 kilometers in seating temperatures to search for water.
The water problem here is really affecting everything. We spend all our days looking for water. One can't do any business to earn any income.
Finding water in this part of Ghana has always been difficult. People rely on rivers and lakes or boreholes. But with little rain now for months, it's even more of a challenge.
The farther you go, the more desperate the situation. These people have been digging for hours in the dry riverbed just to find enough water to fill a bucket to take home. In the midday sun, temperatures are around 40 degrees Celsius.
The government began building small dams across the north of Ghana in 2017 when Nana Addo became president. The project was called One Village, One Dam, with the aim of storing water for the dry season. More than 500 dams have been built, but few contain any water.
When the rains start pouring here, it pours. And some of them would just give way because the banks were not either one, properly constructed, or two, the intensity of the flow of water into those dams becomes too much for it and it gives way.
It's not just families feeling the effects. For farmers like Al-Hassan Husseini, it's a catastrophe. 11 out of his cows have died from thirst in recent weeks.
No grass, no water, and they're dying. One is lucky to make a few dollars if a cow is about to die, and a butcher is close by to slaughter it instantly. If the rains delay further, it will be a disaster.
And obviously, it is most acute there. There's also the problems that are political, as you described, with the water flow and who has rights over it. But as we're looking at climate change continuing, the Western population continues to grow. We know that there are also droughts across the country, including here on the East Coast. How are we going to be able to secure more water, adequate water, in the long term?
I think that's going to be a real challenge. What you hear from water managers across the West is people are going to need to learn to live with less of it.
Okay, let's go back to Genesis chapter 1, and we're going to start at verse 9, because what people fail to realize is that the Bible is real. Oh yeah, the Bible is very real. And when we read the Bible, we are just flipping pages over equations. Okay? You'll see what I mean when we get there. But there are many equations, mathematical equations in the Bible. These equations are solutions to man's health and the world today. I'm going to read Genesis chapter 1, verse 9. And the Most High said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And the Most High called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And the Most High saw that it was good. Let's go over to chapter 7. And we're going to read verse 10. Genesis chapter 7, verse 10. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth, because it didn't rain back then. There's only 4 great rivers that produce moisture upon the land and fog within the land. Okay, fog is a vapor or a gas of water. Okay, verse 10. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, that's under the sea. And the windows of heaven were open, that's above, that's the sky. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. This too is an equation. Okay, now the Most High told us that he would never flood the earth again after this, and so he put a rainbow in the sky. Today, these hypocrite people use the rainbow as a symbol for homosexuality, which is a man-made lie. The rainbow is the Most High's promise to creation that he would never flood the earth again. And you see this drought that we're going through today. But the Most High kept his promise. The next great destruction will be a fire. However, the Most High always sends prophets to prophesy about such famines and wars and pestilences. And sometimes he even sends the solutions for the problem. However, let's read Sirach in the King James Version 1611 Apocrypha. Let's go to Sirach chapter 11, verse 22. The blessing of the Most High is in the reward of the godly. And suddenly he maketh his blessing to flourish. You got to have belief in the Most High God in order for you to receive this reward. I'll read it again. The blessing of the Most High is in the reward of the godly. So those who believe will do things like miracles, and people won't understand. I'll read it again. The blessing of the Most High is in the reward of the godly. And suddenly he maketh his blessing to flourish. Now, let me introduce you to a man who is a modern-day Joseph today. His name is Moses West.
I built something called an atmospheric water generator. And an atmospheric water generator is, we all know that there's only 3 sources of water on the earth. We've all learned it in science class. And there's 3 sources of water that exist on the earth. It's in a liquid, it's in a solid, and it's in a gas. And so the easy water that we drink every day, it comes from a surface water, like Lake Michigan. What the water is doing is just the plant is getting warmer, so the water's starting to evaporate. And naturally, when the water evaporates, where does it go? It just goes into the air. If you have a glass of water in a room, it evaporates, it's in the air in the room. Many people here don't understand that the water that's in the atmosphere is so plentiful that we can use it. But you see this process every day. In the summer, when you sit at a table and you have a glass on the table and all your friends have a glass of lemonade or iced tea or cold beer or drinks, what you see is those glasses sweat. You see that. You see your air conditioner drip. Well, this is the moisture that's being condensed out of the air. And so basically what I do is I've created a machine that does that, but it's on steroids. Condensing the moisture out of the atmosphere, what I've learned over the years, is a viable, energy efficient source that can operate completely on renewable energy. On the island of Vieques in Puerto Rico, working with my foundation, we supplied enough water for 5,000 people to drink water. We were making water that far exceeded World Health Organization standards, far exceeded EPA standards. Right now, what I've been doing is I've been working with the military, and so they have it for their mobility needs. So when the military pulls into an area, one of the problems they had is that when you fly in water in a large military aircraft after a disaster, it takes up the entire plane because water is so heavy. With this technology, what it allows for the user to do is to have a system in place that produces the water as the people need it continuously, and it frees those planes up to do something else. You saw in Katrina that people were standing out, there were signs they needed water. If they had this machine during Hurricane Katrina, all they would have to do is pull it out, turn it on, and they would be producing water at that spot, at that time. So right now today, in California, in these areas where they're running short of water, this is a technology that has a place and a home right now today. I started doing this in 2012, doing my first steps of trying to tell everybody that the Chicken Little thing, that the sky was falling. And today, we've reached that place that I was talking about then. So I'm working with a town right now in Texas. It's called Sand Branch. This town, Sand Branch, it has absolutely no drinkable water. The water in the wells is even contaminated. So this is one of many towns, thousands of towns around the United States, that have lost their water supply or their water supply is contaminated as the planet warms up. So this technology, operating in a higher temperature, high humidity environment, has the capability to actually produce all of the water that these communities need. When I came up to Chicago, when I moved the process from Texas to here, there's a huge amount of support here for the Ukraine. And people kept asking me, so will this work in the Ukraine? People kept sending me emails, what can you do for the Ukraine? And I said, yeah, well, the machine, it'll work anywhere. I was watching and reading some newscasts. And where was the place where everybody was huddling? They said they were huddling in the basements. And one of the things they always said about the basements was that the basements were dank, damp, and wet. If I put a system in a basement in the Ukraine, it's going to dry the basement out. It's going to prevent disease, mold in the air. It's going to make it extremely dry. The temperature is high enough in the basement to produce water year-round. What I'm interested in is I'm interested in supplying an entire neighborhood with water. I'm interested in making sure that the military will be able to push one of these out of a plane on a parachute to troops in the field. I'm interested in ensuring that the disenfranchised communities around the United States have access to this. And I think I've been one of the only crusaders for that.
This man is an Israelite, and he have baffled those of great importance with his simplicity. The Most High used Moses West to create something so useful that it could restore life in ways that it could not do in the past. Now, when we read 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 27, it reads, "But the Most High have chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And the Most High have chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty." As many people think that the African Americans here have no power, but oh, you should really consider what you're thinking and saying. It reads in verse 28, "And base things of the world, and things which are despised, hath the Most High chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are, that no flesh should glory in his presence. But of him are ye in Hamashiach Yahushai, who of the Most High is made unto us wisdom." So through Christ, the Most High has given us wisdom and righteousness and sanctification and redemption, that according as it is written, "He that glorieth, let him glory in the Most High." So the Most High will bless those who love him and glory in him, and he will reward them with mysteries. Now, why is Moses West not mentioned in the mainstream news? This is one of the greatest inventions in the history of the world. Why isn't he not mentioned, not only in the news, but why isn't he a household name already? Why is this not on every news channel and every platform? I'll tell you why. Because he is a black man in America. Wake up, people. This is a man who has a heritage from the Hebrews, from the tribe of Judah. And the Most High has gifted him and blessed him with this great invention. This is something that I just wanted to make you think about. Think how the Most High uses his people. And with that, I'm going to say shalom.
Nations, that's the direction they told the whole world to go to. The one thing that they were missing was a sustainable source of water.